Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the TTRPG Super-Stream, an all-day celebration of superhero role-playing games, raising money for the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund. We are sitting down to play Friendly Neighborhood Superhero, a solo RPG about protecting, befriending, and improving a community, which is really what the stream is all about. It's what superheroes are all about to me. This is a game that I'm so excited to play. I've had it on my list for a very long time. And I'm sitting down with Sylvan Lawrence. Sylvan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course, of course, of course. I'm so happy to be getting to play this game. Like, this is gonna be great, and I'm happy to be getting to tell like a good superhero story with you. I think this is gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good as well. It's going to be a nice change of pace from the somewhat grisly horror story that we told together last time.
Yeah, last time we played Gravemire, which was a much different experience. I think this is gonna be the pressure is off a little bit, and I'm feeling very good about that.
Yeah, me too.
Uh, just getting to play like a slice of life story is gonna be nice.
Yeah,
So, before we kick things off, why don't you let our lovely audience at home know about if there's anything you want them to know about, any plugs, any games you're working on, or things that you've released, including the game that we just mentioned, Gravemire. Talk to us about what you got going on.
sure. I'm Sylvan. I'm the director of Clawhammer Games, which is a small tabletop game studio. Uh, the big game that we've put out that I wrote is Gravemire, which we just talked about. It's a horror tabletop game. Um, about grief and loss in the Louisiana Bayou. You can find that on itch. You can also buy print editions of it from Indie Press Revolution, also linked through itch. Um, we have a couple of things coming down the pipe for later this year, so just watch any Clawhammer space or my Twitter or wherever to see announcements about that. I'm very excited about them, and there will be more info for those soon.
Hell yeah, I'm excited to. I'm greatly looking forward to it. Yeah, so we're playing Friendly Neighborhood Superhero. This is a game about protecting, befriending, and improving a community. Specifically, we are collectively going to be creating and telling the story of a small-time, well-meaning superhero who tries their best to protect their neighborhood. Vibes of the game as listed are things like the Matt Fraction Hawkeye series, Spider-Man comics, Teen Titans Go, My Hero Academia, things like which I all things that I love extremely dearly, and so like I am extremely excited about this. But the first thing we need to do is we need to make a small time local hero and their neighborhood. So, the way that we're going to do that is we have some table. A lot of the game is rolling dice and tables, and because this is a game where we are both going to be creating the character and kind of outlining what happens, it's kind of a shared GMing, shared playing experience where we're just going to kind of be riffing. But first we're going to create a signature ability. This is the thing that our hero is particularly good at. And I'm going to roll some dice and I'm going to see where your head is at, or what let me tell you what comes to mind. Our signature ability's origin is an accident. Great. Classic superhero stuff.
Yep.
What's the first thing? Talk to me about visuals that come to mind when you picture this, and then we'll start to roll some specific other things.
Man, all right, accident. The big ones that come to mind for me of like I'm just like the first thing I'm thinking of is like what superheroes do I love that
Mm-hmm.
got their powers from an accident? Spider-Man,
Yep.
bitten by a mutant spider. Daredevil is one of my favorites. Like very, very
Mm-hmm.
famous accident there of being exposed to chemicals from like a pretty horrific uh vehicular accident. But I'm also wondering whether we can play around with the definition of accident
Sure.
and
Sure.
thinking about as opposed to, you know, a horrible, freakish scenario gone wrong, a more mundane or everyday accident that leads through a chain of coincidence to getting powers that were unintended.
I like this. I like this a lot. There's also a sub table to roll on for like what that ability is, and I rolled. Roll me a d6. Actually, I'm gonna have you. We'll go back and forth on dice roll. Roll me a d6. So we've
Sure.
got an idea of an accident. I want to know like what our dice result is to kind of like narrow in, because I think that will tell us a little bit of like
Special effects.
special effects, shape shifting, talking to animals, invisibility, teleporting, healing. I don't know why talking to animals immediately like gravitates towards, like I gravitates like something about that, especially with what you were saying about like a mundane accident that like unfurls a chain of events. The idea that something occurs that ends with the protagonist realizing that they can speak to animals or that they can speak to living things is fascinating to me.
I'm also like personally a huge fan of teleportation, of like unconventional travel. So I'm wondering if we can do something with both of those things. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Someone
Mm-hmm.
who can travel through plants, who can, I don't know if you've ever played Dishonored, but can
Mm-hmm.
briefly inhabit the same space as an animal as that animal is moving.
That's
Um,
really great.
Something along those lines. But I also really just like the visual of, like this person going through this like very strange day and not really understanding what has been happening to them, and like just ending up on like a park bench alone and being like, man, that was weird. And a squirrel sitting next to them being like, I know, right?
That's perfect. Yes, that is very, very good. And I think that that feels really so like yeah, that feels great, and especially if we follow you were the thing you were just saying about like inhabiting the same space as an animal in motion or as like a plant as it exists is very fascinating. And yeah, if that randomly occurred to you one day, like if that just started happening, you would probably like you would probably be a little freaked out and would and like I'm imagining that day being very much like, this person gets up, they go outside, and suddenly they are sitting on the roof as like a bird flew by. They inhabited the same space as this bird as it flew up, and now suddenly they're on the roof and they don't know quite how they got there.
Yep.
I think that's incredibly good. And what that the through line is that like there is this idea of I like this through line of like what's even the word, connecting with living things in particular. I think is really compelling to me. This idea of like inhabiting the same space as an animal, teleporting through kind of living things or emerging out of like living objects. I think there's a really compelling sort of like living biosphere kind of aesthetic to that, as well as like communicating with plants and animals, that I think is very good. And I think that kind of gives us a unifying theme a little bit for like what this character's aesthetic is, or like what the
Yeah.
sort of through line of their powers is.
I also think it would make sense then if you have somebody with that sort of power and who is invested in living things. I would imagine that they would also be interested in preserving urban green spaces and making
Yep.
sure that the like community that they are serving is both uh socially stable but also ecologically stable,
Yeah.
which can
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
difficult in like large cities.
I like that. I really like that. I like that. I All right. So I have a pitch for you immediately. I'm gonna throw you. We're gonna go from like just talking about this in very broad terms to I'm gonna throw you the most narrow and specific pitch that I could possibly conceive.
Hit it.
Get ready. Here we go. I am thinking. The thing that popped into my head was there is many different urban legends about holes that lead to hell.
Okay.
What I want to propose about an accident is like if someone fell down a hole, just like like there was like an accident or a rock slide or something, and somebody like tumbled down a hole, woke up the next day having accidentally fallen into like the nexus point of all living things.
That's fantastic.
That is my pitch. We
Can
we
I?
can scrap it, but
No,
that
no,
is
no.
what just popped into
That's
my head.
really, really good. And the whole that I am imagining here, because this just taps into like just such a visceral image to me, is is just a manhole that wasn't covered,
Oh, I like that a lot. I like that a
you know?
lot. Yeah.
Because that's the kind of thing where if you're not paying attention and you're just on your phone and you're walking down the street,
You just go, yeah, you
you
just
just
fall down.
and you don't
It's a
even
very
know what happened.
it's a very good like cartoon visual of just fall like you walk, you step in it, you fall down. And like the idea that I like the like and this is a pin for us to put into later. The idea of uh I love a good we dug too deep. I'm never gonna turn down a good we dug too deep. And a pin to put in later is that like something in this manhole connected it to something to a force that was like eldritch and ancient and powerful. So that like when someone tumbled into it, they didn't just fall down onto the end of the sewer. They fell and they fell and they fell and eventually hit this point that turned them into something connecting all kinds of living things.
Which leads, of course, to the question of who made this place in the first place. Why
Right.
was it uncovered? You know, like there's someone or something responsible for this, but that is a much bigger question, I think, than one that our hero is currently capable of asking.
Exactly. Yes, I really like this. All right. So, we've got our signature ability. We can come back and we can come back to this at any point. We've got to give our character a name, pronouns, and a secret identity, but we also need to allocate some attribute points. Do you think you have an idea on like a character name persona, or do you want to like lay out some points and then see where we go from there?
I Names are always the last thing that I
That's
do.
about the same for me. I like knowing everything about the character and then finding the right name from there. So we have four attributes that we are going to assign points to. We have power, skill, mind, and heart. Power is physical strength and endurance. Skill is mastery over abilities, over control of your body and execution of your plans. Mind is your ability to assess a situation and plan your way out. And heart is your ability to empathize with other people and find and figure out their motivations. So we start with 1 point in each of these attributes, and we're going to start distribute 3 points among them to see as we see fit. So what I'm going to do is have each of us put 1 point into one of these other things to up it by one. We can do the same attribute if we'd like, and then we can mutually decide on what the third point is.
Sure.
I am thinking, I'm picturing very ordinary schlub, and I say that with all the affection of the world as an ordinary schlub myself. Like, and so like I'm leaning away from power. I'm leaning towards I kind of like do I want skill or I'm gonna go mind because I kind of like the thing that pops into my head is like off like maybe like a like office manager work where it's or like tech developer, coder, somebody that is doing a very kind of boring office job is what I would describe it as. Like a very ordinary office job. This is somebody that before becoming this sort of living nexus point was just kind of going about their day and like their week and their month and their year. Like they have like a very ordinary seeming job, and that feels like it translates to a mind stat very specifically.
I also like the idea maybe of the this person being smarter than this job gives them credit for or
Yeah, oh
allows them
absolutely.
to be.
Absolutely.
Um, the one that I wanted to put a point into immediately was heart, uh, because I think that somebody who is drawing power from communication
Mm-hmm.
and like fundamentally can't do anything without other entities agreeing to help, uh, is probably going to be really good
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
connecting with people. And I
And
use
I think
people as a more broad
And
term.
I think if we're thinking about it where we want to put our third point, I almost want to do we want I'm going to throw out two options and see which one you're feeling. Do we want a third point in heart or do we want to put one point into skill? I'm not too concerned with balance, but like where do we think that this person's kind of like what's the finishing touch? I kind of have a feeling, but I want to hear what you think.
I was debating between the same thing. I think
I'm Go ahead.
I think I'm leaning towards pouring more into heart.
I was leaning exactly in the same way. I kind of like that this was a person I like that this was a person who was already like compassionate. Like they were already a person that like was peak superhero. The powers that the superhero gets amplify the things that they already had. I like that they were a person that was already like good at connecting with people, and this is a sort of a like it expands the what that could mean in ways that they never thought possible.
I'm almost imagining that their office job is working in like HR or
That's really
IT
that's really
support,
good.
you know?
I like IT support a lot. I think that's great. That's really good. I like that a lot. So
Also,
we've got go
we
ahead.
we keep coming back to this word, um of you keep describing them as a living nexus point.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and I think that Nexus would be a great superhero name.
That is a good superhero name. In Nexus, I'm gonna go. I've been saying they, so I think I'm gonna stick with they them. And what do you think a good name for this character, like a good secret identity name for Nexus is? I'm gonna throw out something alliterative because this is superhero
Of
stories and
course.
alliteration is our best friend. I don't know why the name Wallace pops into my head, but I really like the name Wallace.
Hmm. Okay. Wallace or Wally?
That's a great quote. I. Which way are you leaning?
Well, I mean, if we go with Wally, I'm just going to be thinking of Kid Flash.
This
So
is true.
probably Wallace.
Maybe Wallace is their last name.
Hmm. Sure. Hmm.
What about do you like I two names popped into my head and I like both I like the way that they feel in both instances. Do you like Wendell Wallace or Wendy Wallace?
Hmm. I like both of them. The other, I also had two options I was thinking about because
Go
I
for
was
it.
thinking more along like nature themed
Okay.
names.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go
And so
for it.
the
Hit
two
me.
options I was thinking were Willow and Wren,
Oh, oh. I like Willow. Willow Wallace is a great name.
right? Can also go by Will,
Will Wallace is a great name. That's fantastic. All right. Willow Wallace, aka Nexus. They woke up, they fell down a manhole, woke up in their bed, went through a day where they started, location swapping with animals, ended up on a park bench, said, "Ah, this day is weird." And then the squirrel said, I know, right? And that was the start of their journey. And they became the guardian of their neighborhood. We've got a few questions to lay out. Where is our so we'll walk through the questions of our neighborhood and then our relationship with the neighborhood. And then we will start going through our day like a day in the life of Nexus. So where's our neighborhood set? What's the weather like? Landmarks like what's the location? What do you picture in your head when you picture Willow's neighborhood?
the Bronx, or like Angleside in San Francisco, somewhere
Okay.
that's not deeply metropolitan, but is very much a neighborhood in a city.
Yeah, I like that. Very, it's very West Philly in Philly, which is outside of my window vibes, and I like that energy a lot. There are trees, there are birds, there are parks, but it's very much also apartment buildings and complexes.
Mhm.
What's the politics like? What's the, living structure like, or what's the vibe, the economic vibe, the government? What's the energy that you're thinking of very much?
The energy I'm thinking of is it is being actively undergoing gentrification.
I like that. I like that a
You
lot.
know, like a lot of major cities in America. Um, so I think what sort of government runs the neighborhood? A I don't know, a left-leaning government which prioritizes the
Mhm.
same the same
It's
effect that gentrification does.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm picturing what hearing you say that, what I imagine is that there is like a neighborhood association that is being undermined in the same way that the neighborhood overall is. Like there is a
Mhm.
long running neighborhood association in this borough that is like they are a group of families of neighbors that have looked out for one another for decades, but as, businesses and housing developers come in, that association, that group of like neighbors looking out for one another has started to struggle against, well, there is big money coming in, and the city on the whole is putting pressure on the neighborhood to accept these changes by way of like, because that is the nature of things and it is a big economic opportunity for the city. But there's this association of like, yeah, but this is going to change, like this is a I'm envisioning this as like this is also good because this is like the next question is customs, and this kind of gets into this in a very natural way. I'm picturing this as like a working class borough.
Yeah.
It has been for years, like a lot of areas undergoing gentrification. It was working class. Uh it was a poorer neighborhood. It was a working class neighborhood. And so people have been like, we've lived here for decades, and so the gentrification effect is that prices are rising, and that neighborhood association of people that have looked out for one another to make sure that to build a community are suddenly feeling this pressure of like these outside forces are undermining that sense that is around us.
Yeah, I also would imagine that there's a bit of a push to develop on property which previously
Hmm.
was green space.
Yeah.
So to bulldoze parks and turn them into luxury apartments,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
uh to destroy the walkability of the neighborhood in
Yeah.
favor of more places to put electric cars, um, and charging stations, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and thinking about customs, I also think it would be then really interesting as a point of tension just in the background in this neighborhood if
Hmm.
there were cultural activities or celebrations that happened in specific parks in the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
I'm thinking about West Philly. I'm thinking about my neighborhood, and like the thing that pops into my head is like there are a lot of I'm just taking a note down of like concerts, plays, what's the word I'm looking for? Like like community like markets. Like there's a lot of things that are located in parks and sort of these public spaces where, like there's in the summer there are jazz concerts in the park, or there is Shakespeare in the park, or there is
Yep.
like every third Thursday is the neighborhood yard sale where everybody puts out a table and sells things. And I think that the note that I want to make for customs of our neighborhood is that like every weekend there is something big. There is like a big thing happens on weekends is what I want to note, that there is always
Yeah,
something that occurs, and I think that is like a big part of the neighborhood's pride, is that like there is always something, like you're always a couple days away from something cool happening.
I also think that this is one of the things I imagine that has gotten this neighborhood through the pandemic was that they were
Mhm.
continuing to host these events outside
Yeah.
in the parks to keep people together. And so there's a very strong sense of community because they've also just very recently been through something very
Yeah.
difficult together as a family.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that the neighborhood association is probably responsible for a lot of the organizational
I
work
like
that
that.
goes into making all of these things happen.
And then my final question, is there something extraordinary in your neighborhood? I the thing that I want to point to is that like um and I think this is a recent event. Like we touched on this manhole that opened up into something ancient and magical. And I think that there's a very nice tie-in of things are being developed. Um things are being built and changed, and spaces are being dug into. Know what the I don't want to explicitly mark out what it is yet, but like something either resides in this neighborhood, like a presence, or something is being developed in this neighborhood that allowed for the opening up of this manhole into some kind of other space. Like there is something happening either that has always been here or is currently being unfolded here that we will discover and play.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So finally, what's the name of our neighborhood? This can be based on mood, this can be based on location, this can be based on history.
I don't know.
I'm gonna say I like location, and I'm thinking through. This is what's a good name for a like a river? This is riverfront. This is riverfront. This is um not all like this is on the other side of like a small river that splits through the city. And on the other side is sort of the boardwalk and sort of the big kind of one of the big touristy areas, which is why I think a lot of the gentrification and movement has started to move in our direction, as that the immediate vicinity of that neighborhood has filled up, and it started to creep outward in the way that gentrification does
Over the
into
bridge.
the
Yeah.
neighborhood of Riverfront, since all of the buildings have been developed around the boardwalk.
Yep.
All right.
No, that sounds very good. So then we have to define what sort of relationship Willow has with the neighborhood.
Yeah, what's Willow's relationship with the Riverfront?
All right. So there are a couple of different options that we can use as building blocks. There's legacy, belonging, and activism. Um, I think it would be interesting if this was where Willow grew up
Yep,
and they
feels right.
moved away and then came back.
I like that. I really like that. And I imagine, pulling from my own personal experience, it's they went to college, they got their degree, they've come back, they are working. They got a job, maybe not in the neighborhood proper, maybe they're like a commute away, but
Yeah.
there was, are they I so I and I think what I want to say is like they got an apartment in the neighborhood, probably not far from where their parents lived.
Yep.
just because it was available. Like it was like a nice space for them. They got it. It was a nice spot. It was affordable, and their work is not so far. Or even, I mean, with the shift from, I mean, if they were an IT support person, especially during the pandemic, they likely got a deal where they were transitioned to remote and just didn't go back. So they were like, this is the neighborhood that I like, so I'm just gonna settle here.
Yeah.
I like that. Do you think they've gotten involved with the neighborhood association, or do you think that they if they are a young adult, like I think there's room for either answer.
I think that they are I really like the idea of them like really wanting to be a member of the neighborhood association, but that it's like it's not like gate kept, but it's fiercely guarded by
Yeah,
like the
right.
old guard. And so you have a bunch of these like
You kind of got to prove
yeah,
yourself.
you have a bunch of like middle-aged to elderly like people who like treat this as like their full-time job and are
Right, right,
very
right.
invested and are very wary of like young blood being introduced to the association. And so Willow is like continually trying to prove themselves to the association. The association's like, but what do you really do for the neighborhood? And they're like, oh, if only you knew.
Yeah, if only I could tell you. That's great. I love that. And that gives us everything we need to kind of play through a couple days in the life of Nexus. So the way that this is going to work is that we are going to generate some problems. We're going to create our day, generate some problems. We will outline how Nexus addresses that problem, use one of our attributes to create a scene. Once we build, and then we will roll some dice. We will build up progress towards a solution. Once we solve a problem, then we will eventually call it for the day, wrap it up, and check on some and do some bookkeeping at the end of the day. So
Perfect.
our day begins. I'm gonna roll a d6. You were enjoying your hobby. What do you think Nexus's hobby is?
The first thing I thought of was building wooden planes, but we don't have to actually do that.
So this is a real Jeff fact, and that is my father has for decades been like an extremely avid wooden model plane builder.
Oh, really?
He builds them, he flies them, he fly like he goes out to like an airfield or like a small like model plane airfield and like
Lordy.
flies his like remote control model planes and uh it's great. It is genuinely and I love that the idea that there is a model plane, like a park that has been purposed as like the model plane airfield. There is like a small group of model plane enthusiasts that go to a park maybe once a week or once a month. Like once a month they go to a park and they just fly their planes around is great. That fills me
Yeah.
with an intense joy.
I also really like the idea that like Willow is in, you know, probably their late 20s, early 30s,
hmm
and everybody else that's been doing this is like retired.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
And
100%.
so it's just
100%.
like a bunch of like 68 to 75-year-old, probably men, um, and then a like 28-year-old non-binary IT worker who just like shows up with their planes every month.
Just really excited about it. I think Willow's like specific model plane that they've been working on is I think they get really detail oriented with it. I think that listen, sometimes we accidentally call ourselves out a little bit in the art that we make, and we have to acknowledge this. I think
Mm-hmm.
that Willow like gets really deep into the lore of the planes that they're making and like creates the backstories of like the pilot and the plane and the missions that it's embarked on and like the role that it plays and who's been using it, who commissioned it, and like reflects all of that in details that when the plane is in the air no one will notice. And
Of
really no
course.
one asks about it.
Well, yeah, but if they did ask, we could tell them.
They'd have a whole answer. I would have a whole answer if they asked me why there's a bullet hole just in this one spot on the wing. I would have an answer, and that's crucial.
Yeah. Um, I wonder if they have any animals that live with them
Hmm.
and keep them company while they're working on this in their
Oh,
little
I do
like
love that.
workshop, you know?
I think one of the D6 results of your day is caring for your pet, so I think we can say that they have a pet because I like that a great deal.
It's a raccoon.
Oh, that's great. Yep, they have a raccoon that is their friend, and they take care of it. Um, that's great. I love that. I love a good interest. I love a good raccoon pet. What a buddy. Okay. And I give me a D6 roll. Something is going to occur, either a crime or a
It
neighbor in need.
is indeed a crime.
Okay.
We gotta go find out what the crime
Crime, we
is.
need to build up progress to solve two problems: one to defeat the leader of the crime, the person who's in charge, and one to defeat their method, the henchman plan or tools they're using to reach their goals. So how this is going to work is that we are going to, there are some tables here for us to roll. Um, I will, we'll just go back and forth and roll some dice. I will roll to find out what our leader is. Great. These are all great options, especially for the character in the neighborhood that we've laid out. 6. A bloodthirsty mercenary is the leader. Give me a roll for their goal.
Interesting. All right. Interesting. One, to rob a science facility.
Sylvan, you're not gonna believe what I rolled for their method and why
What?
this is unexpectedly the single best development for this day in particular. They are using war drones.
No. You're kidding.
I cannot believe that on the day that Nexus is out here flying their model plane, a drone soars by. Everybody in the pilot society like sees it's like, that's not one of ours. That's not regulation. Those aren't supposed to, you're not supposed to be flying those, not in residential airspace. That's not regulation.
Everybody immediately knows exactly what model the drone is. Willow's
Oh,
like, wait a minute,
100%.
that's military. Hold
That's
on.
military. That's not one of ours. Somebody's gonna get a citation. That's not good. And there is, okay, so there's a science facility, which is great because that is a type of, that is, there is like a corporate office that has opened up in, I'm gonna say, an abandoned firehouse, or like an old shutdown firehouse that has been reworked into a like a corporate research space, because that feels right for the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And um we see one of these drones fly by. We hear a breaking of a window, and we hear several more drones like in rapid pursuit, or in approaching that location. So what does Willow do?
I think Willow will make their excuses about having to go take a support call back home because it's a weekday, and they kind of like hastily grab their model plane and stuff it back into its case. And uh I think they probably just stash it under a tree somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um and are going to try to hitch a ride with a songbird towards the source of the sound,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I would imagine is not always particularly easy because song words can be very strong-willed and stubborn.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a heart. I think that's gonna be a heart roll. We're gonna call this a heart roll. And the way that rolls work in this is you're going to roll a number of dice equal to equal to the attribute in question. In this case, heart, we're going to roll 3 dice. If one of them scores a 5 or a 6, then that is going to count as a success. If not, then that is a failure, and that is going to mark progress towards a goal, which is going to bring us closer to solving the problem at hand.
Cool. I can roll that.
Give me a roll.
Let's see. I got 2 5s and a 3.
That is a success. That gives us a point of progress towards solving this problem. So we have arrived in this like science facility, right? There are drones, and I think they've got kind of grabber arms, and they are sort of grabbing suitcases and hard drives and sort of like looting this facility, right? They are trying to grab shadowy notes on something that is unclear.
Yeah, I think also that this building from the outside looks like one of the new luxury apartment buildings that is being
Mm-hmm.
built in the neighborhood. It's very
Yeah.
nondescript. Um, and as Willow or Nexus kind of tumbles through one of the windows, kind of like separating from the songbird and coming back into their own body. Um, I'm not sure if they've ever been here before or even
Hmm.
knew that it was here. Um, and yeah, I think the drones are making pretty short work of at least the things in this room. Um, so what do you think happens next?
I think um I think they look around and they see the drones are grabbing things. They kind of do the pinky in the side of the mouth whistle, and I imagine the best way to like disrupt drones and to keep them distracted, um the windows are, especially because the windows are already open, house flies or
Mm,
gnats, very specifically. Like we get one of those real big city clouds of gnats coming in, just like flying around, messing with the drones, just kind of causing chaos for the drones to try and navigate through as they are kind of getting swept and surrounded by these clouds of little pesky flies.
sounds like a skill roll to me.
All right, that's gonna be 1d6. We're rolling for a 5 or a 6. And that is a 1. So this does not
Awesome.
work.
Okay, well, we got either an XP or a die to the next roll, and we add a drawback to that tracker.
All right. We'll take we'll see what we'll take an XP here. I think that feels good.
Sure.
And as for a drawback, what does our drawback what do we want our drawback to be? This is a mark on our misreading. Or no, this is on skill. This is on disc. This is a mark
Discredit.
on our discredit.
Um, I think that the gnats, because like Nexus's thing is like they can talk to animals, they can't
Mm-hmm.
control them. I think the gnats are just far, far more interested in the picnic happening on the other side of the
Oh,
street.
absolutely. I like
And
that.
so
I like
so
that.
Nexus gets their attention, and the gnats are like, food, food, food.
I really
S-
like that. That's funny.
Swarm this couple having like a midday picnic.
Oh, that's not no. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. 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 It's fine. It's fine. And I think um how do they react to this? What's their next plan here? What's the next step of their what's their next step of their objective here?
I think at this point, the best call that they can make is just to try to distract these drones themselves. I mean, if the
Mm-hmm.
gnats aren't going to do it, someone is going to have to, and at a certain point, you got to step up and be the hero yourself.
Yeah.
So I think they just, for like lack of a better plan, they just kind of like step out into the middle of the room. They're just like, "Hey,
I like that. I like
over
that a lot.
here."
I think I'm gonna say roll me 2d6 for mind here.
Oh yeah, that's a 2 and a 3.
Great. That's gonna be another. Do you want an XP or extra die on the next roll?
Let's take the XP.
All right, that's 2 XP. And that is on mine, so that is a point towards miscalculation. Uh these are military drones. These have weapons.
Oh yeah, I think we get the attention of the drones just fine.
Yeah, that's great. I just don't think I think that they it's they're drones and they've got weapons, and so it's aggressively like rolling around the room, dodging, ducking under desks that are getting like obliterated with laser fire. And I think I know what I want to do here. Um Willow is going to, and this is a mechanic that I forgot that we should have been invoking this whole time. It's
Hmm.
fine. Now we'll know this. Willow, I think, closes their eyes, swaps places with these flies, rolls like past this couple on this picnic, kind of ruins their picnic a little bit, and proceeds to race back towards the park with a goal of getting their friends in the pilot society to effectively engage in an extended dogfight with these drones.
Amazing.
Would you count this as mind or heart, do you think?
I would consider this to be a heart roll.
Okay, great. That's going to be 3 dice. And I'm going to have you roll an extra fourth dice because when we use our signature ability, in this case, talking to and swapping places with animals, we roll an extra dice on our roll.
Well, I rolled a 2.
Well, that's great because I got 2 6s, so we're
Okay, good
aces.
enough.
The these old retired men are fucking stoked,
Oh
thrilled
yeah,
at this
they've been
opportunity.
they don't even know who Nexus really is. Like they're familiar with the local hero,
Mm-hmm.
but they're like, we don't know this guy. But yeah, we've been trading for this for years.
The reveal that all of the pilot society have put like little BB guns and things onto their drones is very funny to me. And
Yeah,
that's what I imagine. Is they're just like, yeah, we've been arming our things for years. We just didn't tell anybody because it's not technically street legal.
right.
And
I,
so,
I'm imagining like Nexus is like, can we like figure out like a way to attach some sort of like weapon to any of these? And the guys all look at each other and they're like, we got you covered.
we got you. We're good. Um what happens now? So we've so that we see the drones just get lit up, and I think so that deals with the method, which brings us to the leader. I think that we get like a big, Humvee kind of like rears out of an alley and just like starts like trying to desperately get away, maybe with one drone and a hard drive like narrowly getting behind so that they are like, we can at least grab this one piece of information.
Yeah, which obviously means we have to chase after them.
Oh, 100%.
So the question is there an animal nearby that can assist, or are we just going to be beaten feet?
I feel like there's got to be an animal. I got to think about what's the animal that shows up. Oh, it's a city squirrel. It's a squirrel running along a tree. I think it's
Oh,
appearing
sure, yeah.
in a squirrel on a tree and then making a jump down onto the top of the car.
I think this is going to be a skill roll.
That feels right. That feels right.
I'll roll it.
All
It's a
right, but this
1.
we're gonna roll an extra d6 for our ability. But
So true.
this is their opposed roll, their resisted trait. So this needs to be a 6. And it is not, it is a 4. Skill is discredit again, so that bumps us up back up to 2 discredit.
I think that I
Go
think
for
what
it.
happens is the squirrel with Nexus, on board, um, jumps on top of the Humvee. And Nexus, you know, comes out of the squirrel and then immediately rolls off the top of the vehicle.
Yeah, right. And it's just they're in the middle of the street. They've just fallen off of this.
And it just
Um,
looks so embarrassing.
it looks bad. I think that honestly, I think that probably the Humvee gets away, but there's like a momentary chance to at least grab the hard drive or the drone itself.
Mm.
I think I have a pitch. I'm gonna grab 3 dice here because I think they just point at that hard drive and scream food at the top of their lungs with the hope of grabbing any flies, squirrels, bugs, or anything else that's just purely food obsessed. It like just grab that and rip it. That bird's got food. That egg is food.
It's good. I'll roll an extra die for it.
All right.
I rolled a 3.
And that is a 5. I got 1 5, so that works. Which means that we pull this thing out of, yeah, we see big old city pigeon just swoops down, grabs it. There is a fight between the drone and the pigeon, and if you fight a city pigeon, only one thing is gonna happen.
You lose.
City pigeon's gonna win.
Yeah.
Which also means I believe that means we also check our positive skill, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is a progress point. That is a progress point.
And we get a point of inspiration.
Yes. We get a point of inspiration. Which means I think we're at 3 points of inspiration now.
That we are.
All right, as well as did we succeed? Did we fail with every one of our other stats? Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
All right, great. Well, we've got heart, and that's what matters.
Exactly. I think we have if we have 3 progress points, we should be more or less ready to solve the problem
I
here.
think we're ready to solve the problem. We've got our
Or
3
try.
progress points. Yeah. Okay. So when we solve a problem, we are going to do exactly like we do when rolling with attributes, but we're going to roll with the number of progress points that we gain. So we're going to roll 3d6. We want to get a 5 or a 6.
Right, let's give this a shot.
So nervous.
2 5s.
Oh, thank goodness. The fear was real. The fear was real. Okay. So on a success, we have solved the problem. We
But there
didn't
there are 2
necessarily.
problems though.
Oh, there are 2 problems.
Right, there's the problem of the mercenary and there's the problem of the method. So I think we solve the problem of the drones here.
Yeah.
We get the hard drive back.
Yeah, we've stopped the facility from being robbed, but we have not solved the problem of the mercenary.
And what is the decisive action that we take here? Like what attribute are we using here?
We're using I think that this is probably mind, I guess.
Interesting. I was gonna say power.
That, you know what? That feels right. I think that feels right. I think power is the right thing to go with. Because we've just kind of to stop this the robbery itself, we've just sort of like forced everything back into our and like just put everything back in place That feels right. I think you're right.
and
We're
then
gonna take power.
physically destroyed the hard drive.
Yes,
So we get an achievement point for power.
which is under security.
Hmm. And then we have to deal with the mercenary. I think the mercenary gets away in
Yeah,
this fray, meaning that it might be time to do a little bit of recon
yeah, I think
of
so.
some sort.
I think so. And what I think that looks like, I like the idea. I like the idea that Nexus, like, I'm just gonna go with the thing that made me laugh in my head because I think that's sometimes we got to go with the option that makes us laugh specifically. Recon for Nexus is very specifically talking to rats and other city animals that hang out around parking garages.
That's so funny. So they're like, all right, where's the nearest parking garage?
Yeah, they hit the big parking garages in the city and just wait for rats to show up and be like, "Hey, did you
I
see a
think
Humvee around here?"
I think that what they do also is they have their utility belt, which is a fanny pack. Um,
Sure.
and in their utility belt, which is a fanny pack, they have different like Ziploc bags
Mm-hmm.
of snacks for
Love
certain
that.
animals.
That's great.
And so to attract the rats, I think they have like a bag of freeze-dried cheese,
That's great. I love that.
you know? So it's non-perishable, but it is rat preferred. And so they like find a parking garage and they just like throw some crumbs of freeze-dried cheese on the ground and then just wait.
And I think, is this mind? Do you think this is mind or heart?
I would consider this to be a mind roll.
And I think it does invoke our extra ability. So roll me an extra d6.
So that's 3 total.
Yeah.
How many are you rolling?
I rolled two if you want to roll one.
I rolled a 1.
All right, I rolled a 4 and a 6.
Okay.
So I think they get a lead on where this Humvee and this mercenary are like hiding out, right? Like it's a long-term engagement. And a big scary droned out Humvee is not difficult to spot even if you are just a rat nibbling on some freeze-dried cheese. So they get a
It's like, oh
handle
yeah,
on
my
where
cousin
this
Harold, he saw the saw the big black box on wheels. It was 4 blocks that way. Take 2 lefts. You can't miss it.
um Nexus reaches into their fanny pack and pulls out like a pepperoni, just like a whole pepperoni, like and just like tosses it down, be like, don't spend that in one place.
You got it, boss.
All right, so I think the confrontation occurs. This mercenary, their name is their code name is Drone Strike, right? Like
Yeah.
they
Yep.
are a
Yep.
drone controlling mercenary. Their code name is Drone Strike. Drone Strike is hiding out, is talking to somebody via their car's radio as Nexus sneaks up upon them. And like, what do they do when the confrontation happens?
I think that this person, you know, I think this person is expecting Nexus at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they just kind of like turn around scowling. You can see like a deep scar of like a claw mark across one of their cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
Nexus would immediately recognize this as a mountain lion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they say, "And who are you? Huh?"
Uh Fancy scar. Is that a Tibetan American? What am I looking at here?
It's an American mountain lion out west.
Oh,
What's it
out
to you?
west. I'm an animal enthusiast. I like knowing the delightful little critters walking around my neighborhood, less so when they are miserable drones flying into windows.
Right. Do you even know why I'm here?
To steal something, to steal some kind of hard drive, it looked like, but mainly it looked like you were bothering my friends and neighbors, and that's the thing that I got beef with.
Don't want any trouble. As long as you give back the hard drive, I'll be out of your hair before sundown.
Here's the deal. You tell me what's on it. If it's something that can be parted with, I'm not especially keen on these big city labs that have moved in. They've got insurance and things. You tell me what's on it. You be honest with me, and if it's a thing that the insurance will cover and that won't spiral into a gigantic government or shadowy organization conspiracy, if it ends up into your hands, maybe we work together. If it does, we'll do the superhero fight out thing. It's kind of a win-win. Either you get to bust out your drones and shoot some lasers, or you end up with a hard drive. That
I think
feels like
this
a
is a
fair deal
heart
to me.
roll.
That feels like a heart roll.
If ever there was one.
And that's a 6.
Perfect. Kind of blinks. He was not expecting for you to bargain, I think. And goes, right. Okay. It's it's financial information. It's
Okay.
about where the government has been divesting their investments, whether or not they're actually going to be putting the money into the projects that they keep talking about, green energy and the like.
Oh, oh, you should have said that up front. Maybe make a hologram or something. Yeah. Do you want? Let's go get that hard drive right now.
Right. Yeah,
Here's the
well,
deal.
you go.
And I think they reach into their fanny pack and pull out a notepad and paper, and they write down. Here's my email. Actually, you know what? Here's also I I just launched like an official like Nexus in the neighborhood Twitter account, and I got it on my phone, so like I'm kind of on it a lot more. So like I know it's Twitter, so it's kind of like but like it's fine. But like here's my Twitter handle. Message me the information that you get when you pull it off of this hard drive, and then we'll call it square.
Okay.
All right. You send a very bad image to people when you drive around in a big black Humvee with scary drones firing lasers at people. Open communication accomplishes a lot more. Just something to think about.
I've found in my experience that it's better to be feared than to be respected.
Well,
You get a lot more done.
I mean, in this case, it seems like we're getting a lot more done with the open communication. I don't know how it works with the mountain lions, but this seems to be working for us. Like I said, just something to think about. And I think that they have departed. They kind of close their eyes. Um, they close their eyes and break back into this facility to snatch one of these hard drives.
Yep. Sounds like that's going to be solving the problem.
It does. Which I think means that we've got one progress point. No, we have 2 progress points. So I'll roll my 2d6s. And that's a 5. That is a success, which means that we mark
Perfect.
1 towards. This feels like a heart. This feels like. So I lied earlier when I said that we had 3 points of inspiration. We only get the inspiration achievements when we solve problems, but that means that we end with a point of inspiration.
Perfect. They've inspired Drone Strike to be a better eco-terrorist.
Yeah. I like this. You know what? It means that we've got somebody looking out for our community, even if they are a scary mercenary in a truck. And I appreciate this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about spotting who the real villain is, and sometimes the eco terrorist breaking into a science facility is not that villain. And that's a lesson for all of us that I want us to take away on the TTRPG Super-Stream.
Yeah, never judge a book by its cover. Judge it by the
Yes,
contents of its heart.
correct.
And if
Absolutely.
your book does have a heart, call emergency services immediately.
That's a problem. You need to deal with that immediately. Do not read further into that book. If that book tells you to start reciting things, don't do that. Get out. Get out. You're look right now. If you're listening to this and you're looking at a book and it's got a heart, you're probably in a cabin. You're probably in the woods. Just leave. Real winners quit.
So true. But also, I'm impressed that you have internet out there.
You know what? I mean, you gotta have comfort, right? Like if you can't be connected, what's even the point anymore?
So it looks
Um,
like after this we have a neighbor to help.
yes, indeed we do. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, okay. We got a neighbor to help. So let's help a neighbor. I'm gonna roll some dice to get to know who our neighbor is.
Sure.
Their age. They are. Remember how earlier I said that there was some kind of that there was an Eldritch thing that we didn't know the details of?
Is it a being to whom time is
It
meaningless?
sure is.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's
I'm
see what their
pretty.
personality's like.
Let's see what their personality is like. You want to roll as
18.
an
They're
18?
caring,
Okay. All
impressed by
right.
heart.
This changes my picture of the neighborhood a lot,
Uh-huh.
admittedly.
What's the occupation?
Community leader. Maybe we're learning some things about the community right now.
All right, let's see what the trouble is. It is 10, carrying their groceries.
Okay. All right. So we've learned some things about the neighborhood that were maybe a little different than we thought when we laid out Riverfront before.
I think I think that this entity is on the neighborhood association and has been on the neighborhood association for like 90 years.
Oh, I was gonna say like centuries.
Oh, well, yes, that, but in its current
In its
form,
current form, sure.
90 years.
Um,
And everyone's just like, yeah, it's just, it's cool.
I think so. What I think that what we see is like, um, Willow hands off the hard drive. They shake hands, they have a great moment, and they walk off. And they maybe they sit on the same bench that they sat on when they first talked to that squirrel. And every tree in the park starts to like lean around them as this entity that is the head of the neighbors association, while also being this ancient immortal being that is the neck that is the immortal essence of all living things that has centered itself in this location, and now reaches out and just says, Willow Wallace,
Hi.
be not afraid.
I'm not afraid. Are you afraid? I'm not afraid. We're fine. Everything's
You see,
fine.
you seem afraid.
No, this is all normal.
Be
This is very
be
normal. You look so normal.
be not that.
Okay, well, so the thing is that every time somebody tells you not to be afraid, usually there's a very good reason to be afraid. So I'm just going to sit with my fear for a minute and we're going to
If
talk like it's not happening.
if you take the time, that time is of no matter to one such as I. Take what time you need and speak as friend.
See, that's freaky. That's like a freaky thing to say. Like that's freak behavior right there. I don't okay.
Is that freak behavior? That seemed like a normal thing to say.
No, it's really normal. What's your name? You have a name?
I am I am Riverfront.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's cool. You're cool. That's cool. Are
I
you
I
what?
have not been cool before.
Congratulations on the character development. What can I do for you?
God, what does Riverfront eat?
What does it consider to be groceries?
What would it consider its groceries to be?
And
What a question I didn't think I was gonna have to answer today.
what does the spiritus loci of an ancient neighborhood eat? Or maybe it's not like
Oh.
hmm?
Here, tell me what you're thinking because I just thought of something.
Oh, I was saying maybe it's not like food. Maybe the groceries are not like food groceries. Maybe it's like toothpaste.
I was gonna say I think that we did establish that like this neighborhood prides itself on there being like an event every week.
True.
Maybe that's that activity, that presence, that thing of itself, that ritual. I mean, that is a ritual at that point, and maybe
Yeah, maybe it
that's
feeds on a sense of community,
yeah.
but like in a cool way.
Yeah, like it is it the ain't it is a riff on that idea of like this is an ancient ritual to appease to appease the thing, but in this case it's we gotta hold a cook off.
Right, exactly. You have, oh yeah, the Sunday cookout to appease Riverfront.
Yeah. What a this fucking rules.
I also really like I'm imagining Riverfront visually as like literally just like looking like a dude, just like a totally normal person, but every time you look at it, it is a different, completely normal person.
That's sick. And I like the idea that like yeah, there's just like an ordinary person standing in front of Nexus. And like the other thing is that the entire neighborhood, it's that effect that they did in the Lord of the Rings movies where they would like have all of the clouds and everything like circle around Gandalf, but it's like the entire neighborhood circles around Riverfront, like as though they are the entire neighborhood talking, and it just
Yeah.
is constantly swirling around this person.
Yep. And I like the idea also that Nexus in particular is very well poised to understand the
Mm-hmm.
power of this entity, whereas most people would just like pass it on the street and just be like, oh yeah, it's a guy.
No, yeah, that's Carl or Janine or Rakeem. That's the community leader. That's the head of the neighborhood association.
Yeah.
The idea, so adding building to that, pushing it even further, there are constant like if you were from outside the neighborhood, I think being in the neighborhood it is a very normal thing. But if you were outside the neighborhood, the number of elections they seem to have for the head of the neighborhood association is very, very strange. But it's just the constantly shifting face of the neighborhood is constantly having elections in order to be like, I am now Rakeem. This is who I am. This is my face for the neighborhood for the time being.
Here are my pronouns for today.
In 6 weeks I will change again and we will have another election
Yep.
in 47 days.
And everyone's like, cool, works for me.
Oh, okay, we got another election coming up. All right, everybody clear your schedule on Tuesday. Make sure to vote on Tuesday. Remember just, drop your thing in the box. There will be at the 3 coffee shop locations. We did add a third location. So everybody please make a note of that.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. What is the event that Riverfront is asking Nexus to put together to help feed that? Like I think it is a like Nexus, you have been selected.
I think that
A
it's a barbecue.
responsibility comes to all of us, and it is now your time to organize the barbecue.
I think it's like straight up a barbecue. And Nexus goes, oh, uh, like
Again, be not afraid.
no, I'm not afraid. At this point, I'm actually just like confused. You want me to
Be
put
not
a
confused.
working on that part.
It
You
doesn't
want
have
me
the
to
same ring as be not afraid.
no, it really doesn't. Actually think it adds to the confusion personally. Um, so you want me to put on a barbecue?
It is your turn to organize an event for the community. This responsibility comes to all of us in time, and this may be an opportunity to introduce the city to the guard to its introduce the neighborhood of Riverfront to its superheroic guardian.
I mean, when
You
you
are
put
a
it like
shield
that,
to
it
these
sounds
people.
so cool.
You are a shield to these people, and they should
Aw,
know that they can count upon you.
that's really sweet of you. Sorry. So I'm supposed to. Okay, got it. Well, I actually just started a Twitter account, so I could.
Oh, is it you started it in 2023? You started a Twitter that you didn't like a Tumblr, I'm not going to suggest a Mastodon, but like you really Twitter in 2023? That seems
Well, I mean, I know it's like it's on its way out and it's like a toxic cesspool, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have a Twitter account now. I was
it
thinking about making like an Instagram later.
that would be that you could get photos from the barbecue.
That's a really good suggestion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, this
Um,
is why you should be not afraid.
no, we're good now. I think we're good. So like I'll go to the store later and I'll pick some stuff up and
Oh, and like you look up and they are gone, and like the neighborhood just like snaps back into its place. It is, you're supposed to be not afraid. It's pretty terrifying.
yeah, I think Willow just like kind of absently wipes a thin trickle of blood away from their nose and goes, "Cool, cool, 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 cool. Barbecue. I'm all right. Okay."
I think if you're dealing with so how are you like what are you doing to put together the barbecue?
Well, we gotta go shopping, right?
Mm-hmm.
We gotta get the word out, and then we gotta put the thing together itself.
So that feels like three distinct roles that we are going to make.
Exactly. I think that shopping is mind.
That feels right. That feels right. You got to know what to get, what people are going to want.
Getting the word out is heart,
Okay.
and then putting it together is skill.
I like that. That feels good. That feels good. Now, the question is, can we use our abilities for any of these? I have a pitch for how we use, I have a pitch for how we use our abilities to get the word out at the very least.
Yeah, I think for the word, we definitely can. And probably for setting up the barbecue. But the grocery
That feels right.
shopping, I think we're going to be on our own for.
All right. So I will roll 2d6 for grocery shopping. 2 and a 3 does not go great.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it does not go great.
I think
I think it's a holiday weekend and like it's chaos in the stores.
it's chaos in the stores and we commit a terrible miscalculation in that the ratio of I don't know if you've ever like gone like shopping for a barbecue before, but they never seem to have the same number of like hot
Oh yeah.
dogs and hot dog buns in the
Oh yeah.
packages.
You're gonna get 40 packages of buns and two 4 packs of dogs.
Exactly. So you know, so
Gonna
so
have to get
Willow's
like
like
the chicken
really
apple sausages.
and so Willow's really invested in getting those numbers even and ends up just buying way too much stuff.
That feels right. That feels good. As for like getting the word out, why don't you roll us heart and then I'll roll us an extra dice.
Sure. That's that's a terrible failure on my part.
All right, good, because I got a 6, which means that we got the
Woo!
word out. So people are gonna show up. We've added it to the community calendar. I think that like um every neighborhood pet kind of like brought in inexplicably like a flyer for this event that the person was like, "Where did you get that? Where did you get that?" Oh, hey, barbecue. That sounds great.
I also
Don't
imagine
bring
that
in
like
paper.
the morning of the barbecue, that everybody who's like taking their dogs out for walks and such ends up at the park because the
Yeah.
dog leads them there.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
And as
perfect.
for setting things up, we said that skill plus our
Hmm.
plus using the animals to like put things together, teleporting into place to like make sure that
Oh
they're
yeah,
exactly where they need to be.
I'll roll the extra die for that.
All right.
And it fell on the floor and is spinning. That's so fun. Hey, a 6.
Oh, thank goodness, because I got a 2, so that drama was real. Which gives us 2 progress towards solving this problem.
Perfect.
There's too much food, but like at least people are there enjoying it. The thing is set up properly. I'm gonna roll us 2d6 and see how we do. That's a 3 and a 6. That is a success.
Fantastic. That's great
Uh,
news.
and that is that's probably skill, honestly, or do you think that might be mind or heart?
I was gonna say skill.
That feels right. So skill gets us a point towards effectiveness.
Great. I think we get a whole bunch of new Twitter followers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the high schoolers helps us set up an Instagram account.
Yep, sure, sure. We're gonna need some help with that.
Um, yeah, and we did it. We threw the barbecue. It was great.
And with that, let's wrap up our day.
Yep.
What's the scene? I think that the end of the day is like the barbecue has happened. We are sitting. I think that the we're kind of sitting, we're looking out. I think we see Willow look out their window of their apartment, and the trees kind of like bend, but like in a way that like highlights the sun, so it kind of gives everything a glow, almost like there is a force saying thank you. Still terrifying, still fucking strange and weird.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the so now we get to choose a crime goal or a neighbor trouble to solve permanently. Whatever that problem comes up, we get to roll an extra dice to solve it.
I think that the neighbor trouble.
Yeah, we have struck a relationship with the being that is at the heart of the neighborhood, and like we understand how it lives and how these neighborhood events like connect with it,
Yeah.
and so like we have an understanding of it. We also end with 3 XP, which means that if we'd like, we could reduce one of our drawbacks by 1. We might want to lower our discrediting by 1, but we could also wipe either our miscalculations or misreadings.
And we should probably lower discredit.
All right, we lower that by 1. And then we would then keep playing until one of our reputations reaches 10, but otherwise I think that we'll call it here. We'll wrap our day. We'll end a day in the life of Nexus. We might come back to this. I would love to this. I would love to play this again. I think we'll make this a stretch goal for the event to say like we'll make a second edition and we'll bring another day in the life of Nexus, because
Oh yeah, it's
this is a
it's real
joy.
fun. It's been very, very good. And I really enjoyed, you know, we've even just in a single day, we've built out so many aspects of this
Mhm.
neighborhood and this world, and there are so many places to go for it.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for joining me for playing this with me. This was an absolute blast. I could not be happier.
Yeah, it's always real fun to play with you, and this was certainly no exception. Thank you so much for having me.
Shout out to Carla, the secret star of the stream and of the day. Gotta give her pets because she doesn't scratch at the door. Yeah, this was so much fun. This was great. This was exactly what I was hoping for. Just like fun and chill and heroic in the ways that I love. Yeah, thank you again. Before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
That is a great question. You can find me on Twitter at Lone Lamplight. You can find Clawhammer at Clawhammer RPGs. And you can find us on itch at clawhammergames.itch.io, which will have links to all the things. And
Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you again for this. If you are watching this, there is a QR code in the middle of the screen. There are links in the chat. There are links all over the screen. Links are abundant. We've got giveaways. We've got stretch goals. Plenty of stuff. Go donate. This is all a fundraiser for the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund. It is a wonderful cause and a way for us to show up for our trans loved ones and siblings. And now there is, I'm going to throw it over to Jeff in the future so that he can check in with the chat, give us an update on donation totals and all that good stuff. Thank you again for playing with me, and I could not be happier. And yeah, we will throw it over to Jeff in the future. Bye, everybody.